Hi, welcome to our new learning episode. This time we'll be talking about writing instructions. Allow me to share my screen. Okay, now we are here to discuss writing instructions. Look at the photo on the slide. It says caution, read instructions before operating. Sometimes we are saying that there is a problem with the person who reads the instructions. However, in most cases, based on studies, in most cases, based on studies, individuals does not have problems at all, but it is the instruction that does not satisfy the need of the situation or is totally different from what is intended to be. That's the case. And so we have to be very, very careful in writing instructions. Okay? Now, writing instructions would allow us to assemble, to operate, to repair, and to have a routine maintenance. These are some of the things that would allow us to do every time we are given instructions or every time we are writing instructions. Okay, we are writing instructions. That means instructions that's supposed to assemble must, at the end of the day, the output must be an assembled equipment. Instruction that's supposed to operate, let us say, an equipment must at the end of the day, the individual who received the instruction should can operate the equipment. The same also with repair and with routine maintenance. If, let us say, if the individual who received the instructions could not be able to do all of these things, it can only be the reason can only be two things. Number one, the individual failed to read the instructions, failed to read and failed to comprehend the instructions, or second, the instruction is faulty. The instructions are faulty. That made the individual unable to do all of these things. Okay, and our assumption today is that there can be faulty instructions and we have to avoid them. That's why we are discussing how to write instructions properly. Now, elements of an effective set of instructions, we have to observe 5 items here. We have to make sure that our instruction is clear, our instruction is concise, our instruction is using simple words. When we say clear, that means there shall be no room for questions. All expectations are answered. When we say concise, we must be using less words as possible, but we are supposed to deliver the same message to our readers or to the recipient of the instructions. And then the last is we have to make sure that we are using simple words only. We are using simple construction of sentences and simple phrases for better understanding. Again, the goal is not to impress those who will receive the instruction, but to make sure they could be able to understand and deliver what we are expecting. Second element is thorough. Again, we have to remember the word thorough. That means thorough explanation of everything else. Okay, thorough explanation of the instruction. Thorough, that we must be providing complete details, complete procedure. So people who will be receiving our instruction could be able to deliver properly. Third item, we have to always remember the you attitude. When we say you attitude, we mean that we are wearing the shoes of those who will be, us writers, authors of instructions. We must be wearing the shoes of those who will receive the instructions. And then we could be able to assess if they could be able to understand it, if there are still questions needed to be answered, or if the words are not too simple, if the sentences are not concise. That's what we mean by you attitude. We have to feel what these people are feeling. And then fourth item, it can be visualized. It can be visualized, like by simply giving instructions, you could be able to see how it's done without graphics like what you see now in the video, what you see now in the video, showing you what is ladder, what is scrub, what is spread. By simply giving them instructions, they can be able to visualize, to imagine how it's done for better understanding. No? And then last, test. We have to test the instruction that we have written to make sure that it can be understood by a common man. These are the common sections of an instruction. We need to have introduction, we need to have discussion of the steps, and we need to have supplementary discussion. When we say introduction, we are we are supposed to give them a context, like what is the situation now, what is the status quo, why do we need to do this particular thing, why there is a clamor for this to be done. And then second, we are now looking at the discussion of the steps, and we have to make sure these are procedural. This is, we have to show them the entire process. So we have to show them what it is or how it's done in order. Like we have to start with process 1, process 2, process 3, and process 4. That is how it must be presented. We must not be showing them the steps which are not in order. Okay, everything else must be in order so they can easily follow our instructions. And then the last, supplementary discussion only when necessary, that if there are still some things that must be added to the entire instructions, then we can do that. But if we feel like it is already enough, then we can end it with by showing them the process, or discussing them the process or the steps itself. Now that's the end of our lesson in writing instructions. Again, we have to be very cautious. We have to read instructions before operating and before answering different questions. If you have questions, I have on the screen my email addresses. Kindly send your messages or your questions to me directly. Thank you very much, and see you in our next learning episode.